Well, put your wife in a cage with her pet monkey for the night and hop on into the tube. This is Being Film Shakovich. I'm Jordan.
Malkovich?
Malkovich?
This is Nick. I think this is Nick.
Oh. Hey. Yeah, this is the 90s Movies Podcast, episode 81. Still cover 1999 movies, and for this episode, we, of course, are talking about Being John Malkovich. We're literally talking about Being John Malkovich because I have found a portal in the library on the 7.5 floor. Even though it might not sound like Malkovich right now, I'm actually puppeteering the body of John Malkovich for this podcast.
It's incredible news.
Nick, isn't a podcast kind of like a mind portal, though? Like our listeners get to hear the world from our mouths, and not just for 15 minutes, and we won't spit you out onto the New Jersey Turnpike.
That's right. It'll be right in the middle of I-10 in New Orleans. Watch out, there's a sniper on the highway.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. None of that. Oh, well, last time on the pod, I got to punish you finally after our trivia battle, which of course we'll do another trivia battle at the end of this episode. But Nick, you are challenged before we get into Being John Malkovich to report back on another John Cusack movie that's Pushing 10, also from 1999. I tried to watch this and just my morality took over and told me not to. That's how bad it seemed. So what can you tell us about Pushing 10?
Yeah, let me try to hype this movie up since it doesn't do any work to hype you up about it on its own. That's right, we're talking 1999's Flight Traffic Controller versus Flight Traffic Controller drama. It's Cusack versus Billy Bob Thornton. Pushing 10.
Yeah, that would have been a good trailer voiceover. But I'm guessing the movie is not that quite exciting.
It's not at all. I joked around that this is the bummer of 1999, the summer bummer of 1999, because this came out actually right before the summer of 1999 began. April 1999. I rented this film that fall thinking this was going to be a cool movie. I hadn't heard anyone talk about it at all, but it looks cool, right? You'd think it would be cool. It's directed by Mike Newell, which rhymes with cool. He directed Four Weddings and a Funeral. Right, that he does have that.
The Mike Cool Newell.
Right.
That's his middle name.
Yes, that's right. He actually said that on stage when he won a BAFTA award for Four Weddings and a Funeral. That's right.
Did he really?
Yes, for Best Direction and Best Film.
And
he made Donnie Brasco, Jordan. He made Harry Potter's Hidden Puberty Now, and he likes the ladies. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, he made that. So you think like, okay, there's a lot of competency behind the camera here. You know, those movies, two of those are very British focused, and Mike Newell, you can just tell from his name, Michael Cormac Newell, he's an English film director. So you wouldn't think like, okay, this guy really, if I want to get into the world of like gritty New York City air traffic controllers, I want Mike Newell behind the camera. But here he is.
Yeah, doesn't quite compute, but okay.
Yes, doesn't quite compute when you say it, and it doesn't quite compute when you watch it. Because this movie does not work, and it is a shame that it doesn't work, Jordan. A damn shame.
Why do you say that? Why is it a shame?
Well, did you know, first of all, that this movie was written by brothers? It was the brothers who co-created Cheers. They worked on Taxi together. It's the Charles brothers, Glenn Charles and Les Charles. Hey, I remember loving the show Taxi when I was a kid. I thought it was hilarious. Cheers, generally regarded as one of the greatest sitcoms ever made.
Right.
John Cusack, people like him, apparently.
I like John Cusack. I used to have a friend who would call me John Cusack for some reason. I guess she thought I looked like John Cusack, but I'm pretty sure I was saved in her phone as John Cusack. And every time I randomly, ran into her, she'd just be like, John Cusack. And I'd be like, what? Wait, what?
I see it. I can totally see it.
Okay.
But if you just want to say, oh, just Cusack, well, he's kind of a cult actor, right? He kind of had a specific period where he was popular, and then he was kind of a cult actor, and then he was kind of a straight to DVD actor, and who knows what he's doing now. But
Must Love Dogs 3.
Must Love Dogs 3. Cate Blanchett.
Must Love 3 Dogs. Anyway.
Cate Blanchett in a movie where you're making a joke about loving 3 dogs. Cate Blanchett plays John Cusack's wife here. Angelina Jolie plays the woman that John Cusack has an affair with. She's married to a character played by Billy Bob Thornton. There's so much talent in this movie, Jordan.
Yeah.
There's so much talent. And forgive me, but since this movie doesn't seem to be able to try, I'm not going to try with this lazy metaphor, Jordan. Pushington just can't take off from the runway.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, from the hour or so that I watched of this, and like you said, there's got so much talent in here. You've got all those actors. I was really excited. I was like thinking, okay, this is going to be a late 90s little gem of a movie about this kind of idiosyncratic little group of air traffic controllers. I feel like they're trying to go for that Cheers vibe a little bit with just this small tight-knit group of these controllers, and they go to the diner together, and they're supposed to be having this witty repartee, but yeah, none of it takes off. It's I'm going to go with your metaphor there. It's all just a lot of wasted talent and sadness, because yeah, I really like all these people in this, and it just doesn't work. It's not interesting at all.
The shame of it is, not only is all that talent involved, but the bones of something that really could be a cult comedy classic are here, because the concept of air traffic controllers, you don't really see that in movies very often. I mean, in like Die Hard 2, right?
Yeah.
That's really like the only instance I can think of where you're dealing with air traffic controllers a lot, and they spend most of the time on a walkie-talkie yelling at Bruce Willis. Here, they're just yelling at each other. It's a very high-stress situation.
And you're watching them watch the little dots on their screen, like, oh no, don't let don't let the 2 dots crash into each other. Like, this is really riveting cinema here.
Right.
But,
this is definitely worth at least $8.4 million at the box office on a $33 million budget. The thing is, I was so ready to love this in 1999, and I was even ready to love it now. Maybe I missed something back then, because in 1999, they're talking at the beginning. They're like, this job has the highest rates of depression and suicide. 17, 18-year-old me is like, oh, rad. Yeah, this is going to be really dark.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, this could be dark.
Feed my nihilist tendencies. Hooray.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. It's got nothing.
There's nothing. There's no depth here. But the good bones of the movie that I think could have made this a very good film are John Cusack as this air traffic controller, and he's the king of his world. He's the guy that's the best at his job. All the other guys, because it's a group of dudes who hang out a lot together, plus one woman who is played by Vicki Lewis from News Radio. I love Vicki Lewis. It's kind of weird that she's cool. Like a muscle lady here later on in the movie. They go to one of her muscle shows.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
You even have Mike O'Malley from Guts. No ifs, ands, or buts. These kids got guts. He's in this movie.
Yeah.
They hang out, and it's okay. You actually kind of watch the strongest half of the film, believe it or not. Them hanging out and whatever is fine. And then all of a sudden, Billy Bob shows up. They get this new hotshot air traffic controller guy. He doesn't pop up until about half an hour into this 2-hour-long movie. And something that I really like here for a little while, and that I think could have been interesting with a competent script, which maybe originally this was, and maybe it got studio hacked to death. Who knows? I mean, with the talent involved, it makes more sense that the studio ruined this somehow than that the talent involved did such a bad job. But you have Billy Bob showing up, and John Cusack is used to being top dog. And look, I'm just going to say this, man. I don't know how you feel about Billy Bob Thornton. I think that dude's terrifying. That dude is scary as hell to me. If there's one actor I would not want to be in a dark alley with, it's Billy Bob Thornton, because I don't know what the hell that guy's going to do to me, man. There's a weird magic about him. When he was wearing that vial of blood, hanging out with Angelina Jolie wearing her vial of blood, I thought, damn, this is freaky and scary, and I'm terrified.
If you like being terrified by Billy Bob, or if you just like him as an actor and want to see him as a villain, the other day I watched One False Move from 1992. Have you ever seen that? It's like a little thriller noir.
I have not.
It's Carl Franklin directing, and you got Bill Paxton, Billy Bob, Cinda Williams. It's really good. It's a tight little noir. It's really fun. So I definitely recommend that if you like some evil Billy Bob, basically.
Gotcha. Well, I like here that John Cusack is just kind of on top of his world. He's not the best guy. He and his wife seem to have an okay relationship where she seems kind of happy, but it's real muddy. You're not really sure, like, are they happy with each other? Or are they not? And then Billy Bob shows up and he just blows John Cusack's world apart simply by being himself. He's really good at his job. He doesn't give a crap if everybody thinks he's awesome, and he is awesome. And everyone thinks he's awesome, and John Cusack can't handle it. So basically, this movie is a lot like Being John Malkovich. The crux of this is John Cusack basically taking everything that Billy Bob Thornton has away from him, basically trying to be him, because he's obsessed with him in the way that he is better than him, or at least doesn't care like he cares about how other people feel about him. And he ends up having an affair with Angelina Jolie, cheating on Cate Blanchett with Angelina Jolie. And this awakens something in Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob where their relationship improves. They have this moment of honesty off camera with each other, and then they leave, and then the movie just keeps going. And it's like, what is this? What are we supposed to get out of this? What's the point? What is the goal of this plot? Where are we supposed to get to? And where we end up getting to is Cate Blanchett leaves John Cusack and he has to win her back. He does so in like a really generic, dumb rom-com type fashion. There's a moment where John Cusack and Billy Bob stand under a plane as it's landing so the jet exhaust can blow them away, because apparently Billy Bob did that once, and he has to show John Cusack the experience so he'll stop caring so much. And all of that is really nebulous. It's not really very sturdy. If you surrounded that with sturdier themes and a sturdier plot, that would maybe have more meaning, or it might be deep, but because it's not, this movie doesn't connect. It's a stinker, unfortunately, but at the same time, there's something about it. I don't know if it's just the talent involved, to where I was going to give it a 5 out of 10 going into this conversation, but it just dropped. Talking about it made it drop. It's a 4 out of 10 for me now. It is it's not a good movie. It has its merits. It has its moments. The actors are all good. I really like Billy Bob Thornton in this movie. I think Cate Blanchett is always great. There's some good things here, but they're very select moments. Overall, it just doesn't work. It's one of the saddest stories of 1999, Jordan. Pushing 10. Not a good movie. Flopped at the box office. Every now and then someone says, ooh, I think I might have found a hidden gem. Pushing 10, look who's in this. Look who made this.
I was wrong. Wrong.
Whoops. It's not.
The bit that I did watch reminded me of Cusack, and just how you don't necessarily always think of him as a celebrity just playing himself, but he really does. Like, his performance in this reminded me of High Fidelity. It reminded me of Being John Malkovich. It reminded me of every other John Cusack movie I've ever seen. And I went back and I watched an early 80s movie with him, The Sure Thing. He's really young in this, but it's that same manic energy. It just like solidified that idea in my head of Cusack just being that kind of like nervous, very manic, talking really fast. Like, I feel like they found this guy and then they're like, this is our guy. This is our persona for like the next 10 years of rom-coms is this fast talking, nervous guy. And that's who John Cusack is, basically.
Man, I had a revelation about John Cusack watching these two movies back to back, but I feel like I should save it for Being John Malkovich. Jordan, you didn't watch Pushing 10 outside of the beginning. Is there anything else you want to say about it or ask me about it before we put this to bed and hopefully no one ever talks about it again for the rest of the time?
I'm just sad. Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation being what I thought could have been a great little hidden gem and just being a stinker. But, sometimes you just, what is the old saying? You shoot for the moon, you land among the stars. That's the opposite of what happened here.
Right. Yeah. You take off from New York aiming for Paris and you end up at the bottom of the Atlantic, Jordan.
There you go. Something like that.
All right. Well, I gave Pushing 10 the treatment, which it definitely didn't deserve. I don't know if being John Malkovich deserves it, but have you ever wanted to get inside the head of one John Malkovich? Well, you can in Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman's 1999. I can't think of a genre for this movie, Jordan. I don't know what it is. It's being John Malkovich! I quit doing those because they weren't always fitting the movie, but I did it for Pushing 10. I mean, that's not really fair. I mean, whatever I say about being John Malkovich, and not to betray really any of my feelings, because it's easy to say this, it is better than Pushing 10, Jordan.
That's not saying much. And again, all right, so we should set this up for anybody who hasn't heard the last 80 episodes. Basically, you've never seen this movie until now, and you've pretty much hated every other Charlie Kaufman movie that you have seen. So I am finally forcing you to watch this, and I'm fully prepared to defend this against your hate, because I can only imagine you don't like this movie.
I don't. Wait, no. I'm kidding. I don't. Okay. I'm not going to give you my opinion yet. Opinion yet. See, I said I don't because I'm looking at a picture of Charles Stewart Kaufman right now. Mm-hmm. So I just said I don't out of habit. So you're right.
Charles Stewart Kaufman.
Charlie Kaufman. I don't connect with Charlie Kaufman's work. I feel like Charlie Kaufman's ideas, his thoughts, his perspective, as his far away from mine as another person born in the United States could be. There's this weird, godless urban nihilism in all of his work that I just don't... I grew up on a farm. In South Louisiana, in a very religious area, taking on a lot of what I grew up in. I draw a lot of meaning from that type of thing. And Charles Kaufman does not. Charles Kaufman is coming from a very different perspective, and he has made some of my least favorite things I've ever seen. Synecdoche, New York, my least favorite film of all time. Of all time, Jordan. I've seen thousands upon thousands of movies. I hated Synecdoche, New York more than any of them.
His directorial debut, you give him a break.
I won't give him a break. I think it was Rex Reed, who was like 90 when he watched it and is just an old crotchety coot that I probably wouldn't agree with most of the time, but I think it was his least favorite film too, so.
Nice. I have still never seen that one, so I cannot weigh in.
But, I didn't see this, but you and all of my friends who are your age, who are most of my friends, Adaptation, y'all loved it. Talked it up to me. That was my first Charlie Kaufman experience. Did not enjoy it as much as I love Nicolas Cage. Didn't like it. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of your favorite movies. Don't connect with it. Spike Jonze? I love his Sabotage video.
Yeah, there you go.
It's Oh So Quiet video that he did with Björk. Cinematically, not really into it. Adaptation is his movie. He also did Where the Wild Things Are in 2009. Hated it.
I wasn't a big fan.
Nails on a chalkboard for 2 hours. I'm not like a huge fan of that book. Like, I wasn't like one of my childhood books, but at the same time, like, I could not stand that movie.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
These are two people that I don't have a strong connection to, and especially with Kaufman, just do not connect with their work. So I knew I was going to have to watch this movie as soon as we decided we were going to be a 90s movies podcast. I thought, all right, Jordan is going to make me watch Being John Malkovich one day. So you picked your spot. It's the 25th anniversary of this film. Here we are. We're talking about it now.
That's right. Well, I anticipated this, but, you know, like you said, I am a fan, and I feel like at least you're giving us some valid perspective of, you know, your background versus Kaufman and why you might not connect with this. But I'll tell you what, Nick, this movie has taught me a thing or two in my day. And one of those is don't watch a double feature and then in the middle of that double feature, one of those movies being John Malkovich and the other one being Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Don't break up with your girlfriend in the middle of the double feature. That's a bad idea. Because I did that, and I learned a lesson. You know, I've probably seen this movie, you know, a handful of times over the years, maybe, you know, a dozen times over the years. But that is one memory I'll never forget, is watching Being John Malkovich with my girlfriend at the time in high school, breaking up with her because our church didn't allow dating at the time. And then we proceeded to watch another movie after we broke up in my bedroom. And then, like, driving her home and, you know, like, saying goodnight and everything. It was, like, one of the worst experiences of my life.
I'm sorry, man. That's a bummer.
Yeah. But, you know, fitting, I guess, because this is, like, kind of a bummer of a movie.
Kind of.
Kind of. I mean, okay, we'll get into that, because I want to definitely compare this back to American Beauty in a sense, but I guess for anybody who hasn't seen Being John Malkovich from 1999, do you care to try and sum up the plot for us?
Sure. You've got John Cusack. He's a puppeteer. He builds puppets. He is a failed puppeteer. Something about Charlie Kaufman works. Not all of them, but the majority of them. His characters are execrable. He loves to write characters who are unlikable. Really wonder what he is like in real life to create all these characters.
Yes.
So he is trying to have this puppeteering career and is failing badly. He's not doing so well. His girlfriend that he lives with, she seems like an odd duck. And strangely, duck is one of the only animals that she doesn't keep at their apartment. She does keep a chimpanzee, which he calls a monkey. So he's got to live with a really, really frumped up Cameron Diaz. They try to make her look unrecognizable, which was apparently a lot of work to do that because they could not hide her beauty, but somehow did. So he lives with her and about 1,000 animals in this really weird, chaotic, soul-crushing apartment. He finally decides that he's going to get a job. He answers an ad. It's at the 7.5 foot, that's hard to say, 7.5 floor on a New York high-rise, because, of course, this is Charlie Kaufman, and they're in New York City. And New York City is not very appealing in this movie.
You just hate it already. It's set in New York. Goddamn Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, it's funny, though. I like New York. I actually haven't been there a few times. I like that city, or at least I did. I don't know what's going on over there now, but whenever I went there, I liked it.
We should mention John Cusack is extremely frumped up in this as well. Not your typical leading man John Cusack. Just the greasiest, nastiest looking John Cusack you've ever seen.
He is so punchable in this. I'm just going to drop doing a short thing of the plot so I can just dive into this. So, Jordan, here's a compliment to the movie. It opens up with a scene of him doing puppeteering work. I loved how you have all this applause, and it's actually really good puppeteering work. The puppeteering work in this movie is, you know, if you're scared of puppets, it's terrifying, but it's very, very good work with these wooden mannequins he's using. But I loved how the applause, you hear it after he does this, but then he turns the tape off of the soundtrack that he's puppeteering to, and the applause was a part of that. And I thought that was a really good touch. That was really well done. But he is so punchable. And if you think like, this guy isn't very likable, but I'm not quite so sure about him, you should be sure about 4 minutes in when he takes his puppet show to the streets and attracts a small child to come watch it. This little girl is watching it, and
he's just doing his work, and she notices, man. It's not like he's got some ulterior motive here. But you're right. I mean, He's extremely punchable. I'll give you that either way.
He looks up and sees that his only audience is this little girl and proceeds to keep doing his puppet show, which is a man and a female puppet who are longing for each other and humping the wall.
That's set between them.
And committing a sexual act with the wall between each other and making sexual noises. He's doing this in front of a small child, which at that point I was like, F this guy. Like
he's committed to his art, man.
No, he needs to be in prison. He needs to be in prison.
I love how the father just like, to be fair, I feel like Craig is almost unaware at this point. Like he's so full of himself and full of his puppeteering that he's not thinking about this little girl and like the appropriateness or not of this audience member. He's just like, this is, it's like based on an ancient play, this monk and this princess, or what, I forget the details of it. But anyway, he's just so into this scene. He's not thinking about any of that. But, I love the father who's like this big blue collar burly guy, turns around and sees what's happening. Just like, motherfucker, and just decks him in the face. It's so funny.
I wish he would have hit him harder.
And I don't know, like, it's just the black comedy and the satire and everything mixed in here. Like, obviously, yeah, the writing and the direction is in on the fact that this guy is pretty despicable or pretty pathetic. And it's just, I don't know, like, I could see how you'd be just turned off, like, oh, this guy's so unlikable. But I feel like the movie's right there with us. And that's one thing that I enjoy about this over American Beauty, where it's like, okay, this guy sucks, but it's funny. Let's go with this and see where this goes.
You know what's funny, Jordan? I have the opposite opinion on the gender of the characters from American Beauty in this. Because we're watching American Beauty, I'm like, man, this movie just thinks Kevin Spacey walks on water and Annette Bening is just like a stupid bitch who needs to get put in her place constantly. But he's awful and he sucks. Right. Why does the movie have that perspective? He sucks. Well, I'm watching this movie, and that's how I feel about Catherine Keener this whole time. I think Cusack sucks too, and he definitely deserves everything that comes to him. But I think Keener sucks just as bad, and the second half of this movie thinks she walks on water. And I'm like, wait, what? You didn't earn this? So I kind of have the same thing going on. I'll warn you now.
We'll see.
But I do love how he runs to does his wife Lottie, who is Cameron Diaz's character, does she work in a pet shop?
Yeah.
Yet he runs into the pet shop with his face all smashed to hell. And I love that her first comment is, not again.
Right. It's hilarious. Not again. And then she's like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? And he's like, I'm a puppeteer, Lottie.
This movie is funny. There are some great laughs in this film.
Right. I forget how funny this is. Like, that was one of my notes is, as far as the writing and thinking about Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze, you always think of the weirdness and the strangeness of the plot and the absurdity. But watching this again, I haven't seen it in so long. I just forget like how much of the dialogue, how much of the beats in this are just really funny, and the absurdity mixed with that black satire. Yeah, it just gets me, man. Like, and I don't know, it's interesting to think about this also compared to something else like Charlie Kaufman's Eternal Sunshine, because there's some of that there, but it's definitely not as dark or as like black comedy as this. And I don't know, I'm a fan of that. So yeah, I just appreciate that aspect of this film a lot.
Now, I wasn't laughing and saying that's a good one the whole time. It's like 7 or 8 times throughout the movie.
Yeah, I mean, can't ask for more than that, right?
I think I could, but...
Okay. I mean, this isn't a straight comedy either, but,
Right, moving right along, and it is a nice touch that he goes to the 7.5 floor, 7.5 minutes into the movie. And
that is cool.
Let me tell you something else, Jordan. So, I have one of my many useless degrees is a creative writing degree in fiction. So
I'm right there with you with useless degrees.
Of course.
Yep.
Together. So I write what feels real to me. And what felt real to me was not magical realism, but I tell you what, whenever I thought like, man, I could try to make a living out of this, I'm getting some pretty good accolades right now. The main rejection that I kept getting back when things weren't working out was, why don't you try to make this magical realism? Magical realism is really in right now. We're really looking for more magical realism than just straight realism. You know what? Maybe I'm just biased from that. Or maybe I just don't like magical realism.
You just hate anything that has a severance of or a semblance of magical realism now. You're like, damn it, they wanted me to be like this.
Right. Either be magical or be real.
I got rejected because Kaufman was in?
Yeah, it's because of that. It's Kaufman's fault.
It's all Kaufman's fault. Yeah, you're blaming a Kaufman.
Yeah, I should have a Pulitzer Prize by now. Damn it. Friggin' Charlie Kaufman.
Well, anyway, you were talking about the seven and a half floor. So yeah, goes to this building. He's finally trying to get a job as a file clerk. I like how the ad in the newspaper says like a short-statured clerk is needed with quick hands. And so he goes into this elevator, and actually we got Olivia Spencer, later on award-winning Olivia Spencer is just riding the elevator in this one scene.
It's Octavia Spencer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Octavia. Anyway, she pulls out the crowbar and shows him how to get to the 7.5 floor, just stopping the elevator between the 7th and the 8th floor, prying it open with the crowbar. And then you've got this tiny floor where everybody's like hunched, walking down the halls and through the offices and everything. So that's what we've got there, Nick. What do you think about all that?
Man, so there are definitely those moments in the movie where I laugh, but this is something that pops up in all of Kaufman's movies. All the surreal conversations that people have once he gets up there, I hate that shit.
You mean like the secretary misunderstanding him and Dr. Lester being a super perv, like all those conversations?
Yeah, I hated all of that.
Come on, man. I love that shit.
It's like really off-putting and not funny to me. I don't know. I don't like any of it. I hate that in every Kaufman movie.
All right.
It's
well,
lame.
Each their own, I guess,
It was dumb.
We can agree to disagree that you're wrong.
Fine. But you know what I thought was funny, and then I was laughing again, is whenever he watches the little documentary film about the 7.5 floor, where
the history.
Right, where apparently the building designer was in love with a woman of short stature. You just get these random lines in the movie out of nowhere that are very funny. Because I love that he's like, I've made you a place where your accursed kind can live in peace.
Right.
Your
accursed kind can know some peace on God's green earth.
So stupid.
It's amazing.
But
it's
so
stupid.
Funny,
yeah, I feel like to a degree, you could look at this and laugh at it like you would like other smart, dumb comedies that we enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about as far as smart, dumb, like enjoying something that's like being really dumb, but in a smart way. I feel like you could look at this in that way to a degree, even though it's like smart, dumb, maybe. Like there's a level of complexity and pretentiousness, mixed in here more than like an Adam Sandler movie, of course. But it's that kind of comedy where it's like, I feel like my mom would watch this and be like, this is stupid. You know what I mean?
It is stupid, though.
But
Jordan.
I'm watching it and I'm like, this is hilarious. This is so absurd and ridiculous. It's funny to me.
To me, you got the high concept that we're about to get into that makes it... the Emperor has no clothes, Jordan. He comes up with these great high concept items, but there's nothing there. There's nothing there, damn it. There's nothing in any of his movies. He sucks.
Come on.
Charlie Kaufman sucks.
Nick, there's truth and there are lies. And art always tells the truth, even when it's lying.
That's bullshit.
But see, even that line is like tongue-in-cheek, like poking fun at itself and poking fun at that kind of pretentiousness of like talking about art. I feel like there is something there, Nick. It's just doused in the stupid comedy and you've got to like accept it for what it is.
No, I don't.
It tricks you into thinking it's some complex, high concept thing because of the high concept portal idea and everything. But it's just, at heart, it's just a dumb comedy.
I wish at heart it was a dumb comedy. I would like it more.
A dumb, dark comedy. Well, okay, so, all right. just to get the plot out of the way so we can get into our bickering. Basically, we have John Cusack working as a file clerk at this place. He meets Maxine, played by Catherine Keener, who he's immediately smitten with. You know, she's very kind of cool and collected, slinky, sexy, you know, young office worker, young coworker. And he's, again, just dirty, frumpy, nasty looking John Cusack. So, but he wants, you know, you can tell he's wants to get in her pants immediately, and she knows it. And she calls him out on it and is just very blunt and very direct in everything that she says, and doesn't care how crass or ugly she comes off. But
she's a sociopath, Jordan.
It's basically a sociopath. But, you know, we get that whole part of the plot where, you know, he's married to Lottie, his wife, Cameron Diaz, but he's wanting to get with Catherine Keener. So yes, unlikable character trait, check 1. Then he does discover by accident that there is a portal in this office building that leads to the mind of one John Malkovich. So basically the slimy tunnel that he crawls through a tiny wooden door, and he ends up inside and looking out from behind the eyes of John Malkovich.
I feel like it's important to note that he drops a file behind a file cabinet, moves the file cabinet over, and that's where the portal is hidden. The nasty, sticky, gross portal into John Malkovich's brain.
There you go. That's right.
Well, not really his brain, the back of his eyes.
Well, you know, and eventually his consciousness or his personhood. So, you know, skipping far ahead into the movie, we do get a bit of the puppeteering back in there where he gets to control John Malkovich. So,
Jordan, I'm the kind of person that wants to know scientifically how this is possible.
Why?
I need to know that. How are they going into John Malkovich's mind? Why can they just do it? Why is there just a portal to his mind?
I don't think I ever had that question in my mind watching this, but maybe we're just two different people looking at this in different ways.
Because later on in the movie, we find out there are other portals into other people's minds, and there are all these blueprints and diagrams, which I hate the aesthetic of all of them. And it reminds me of Michel Gondry, who I hate the aesthetic of his stuff too, the director of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Well, that's where we differ, my friend.
He also did The Science of Sleep. Also, he did Be Con Rewind. Hate that aesthetic for all of those.
I love Michel Gondry, so yeah, we're going to totally disagree on that.
There's a director's commentary for Being John Malkovich on the Criterion Edition, which I checked out from the library, and it's Michel Gondry instead of Spike Jonze.
I feel like that's fitting because, you know, I was going to comment on Spike Jonze's direction and the whole vibe of this picture being that it doesn't have as much panache or that style that I remembered, because I think I retrospectively associate this movie with Michel Gondry's style and like kind of associate that onto Spike Jonze, because Jonze here, it's very much more like realistic documentarian grungy vibe than something like Michel Gondry, who's just this quirky wonder filled with camera trickery and everything. That's not this at all, really. Yeah,
that is true. I think I like Jonze more as a director. Gondry, he's got that really like, okay, if you're like watching a science fiction movie where like a spaceship is flying to a planet, you would want that to look good, and you wouldn't want someone to try to do that in a movie unless it looks good. But Michel Gondry would just straight up give you like a foam planet hanging by a string that he wouldn't edit out of the movie, and like a model spaceship with someone's hand on it. And I hate that. I don't like that. If I'm at a movie, like I want to be wowed.
I would do that. I would be that kind of that director too. So I don't know. It's just my vibe. Yeah, he would make the spaceship out of cardboard, and yeah, you'd see all the strings attached, and that's what he's going for. That's all intentional and his vibe. But yeah, if that's not your thing, so be it. But we're talking about this movie. But like you said, I think it's interesting that the commentary is from Michel Gondry, just because he's worked with Kaufman quite a bit. But so is Spike Jonze. Maybe they just weren't available for the Criterion release. But
it's like a fun gag for 10 minutes. But I did about 10 minutes of it, and then I got tired of it. He did say that he felt like he and Spike Jonze are more akin than like a David Fincher, who I like so much more than Spike Jonze and Michel Gondry. I can't even quantify it. But they were talking about how like when they did music videos, Fincher would focus more on like the artist and making it look good, and they wanted to try something fun, which I think with Spike Jonze, it usually was fun. And for Gondry, I don't know, man. I have this Björk DVD that has all of Björk's videos up to Vespertine.
Like half of them are Gondry. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love all of them but the Gondry ones. It's like, I'm really into this. And then you get to the Gondry one, and it's like I told you. It's like friggin' spaceships with people holding them in their hands and planets hanging from yarn. And all the other ones are just like visually stunning and mind-blowing. I don't know. We're not talking about Michel Gondry. I don't know how I got on that. I'm sorry, because of the commentary.
The commentary, yeah.
Spike Jonze, to me, his style, I like it a little more than that, but it's not my favorite. It's just like really chaotic, and it feels like a documentary of like a modern hell.
Yeah, it's definitely more rough around the edges, more realistic, more grainy. Those are all things that come to mind when I think of this movie and Spike Jonze. But let's talk about the performances a little bit, because I haven't really touched on the quality of those so far. I will say we just have to, talking about being John Malkovich, talk about John Malkovich himself here. And just, I'm still amazed that they could convince an actor to portray himself in this way and let this movie be made. I mean, apparently he read the script and he was really enthused by the script, but he thought maybe a better fit would be with a different actor. It seems like over years they just kind of wore him down, and he finally agreed. Like, he wanted to produce it, and he suggested that they go with like Tom Cruise or somebody. Like, can you imagine being Tom Cruise? Like, I don't know. I can't imagine this movie working with any other actor for somehow, but it just feels like he's the perfect kind of like mid-tier fit for that kind of celebrity. He's like not too big, but not too little. And he has that kind of New York intellectual vibe to him that works for this kind of thing. But yeah, just the fact that he plays himself here and just allows his persona, his name, to be kind of mocked so much and just taken away into this absurdity. I got to congratulate him for that, for sure. And I love his performance in this. And I like reading about how he played himself as he would any other role that he would take on. You know, like that this is not obviously his personality being portrayed here, but a version of it that they came up with for the movie. So just talking about the performances, I really enjoyed his.
I like him in this a lot. I think he is really good. I think he's a major bright spot in this film. In fact, Malkovich, who's essentially continuously raped in this movie, mind raped, physically raped. Poor John Malkovich, as he is in this movie, is definitely the most sympathetic and likable character to me, but not to the movie. The movie does not give a shit about him.
I don't think the movie gives a shit about any of these characters, just that I don't think he's necessarily unlikable, but pretty much everybody else is unlikable, and the movie knows it, and, you know, doesn't try and paint anybody who's unlikable as likable, which I do appreciate that.
I like Charlie Sheen, who comes up in a cameo where...
Fucking yes! Love Charlie Sheen this.
Where John Malkovich is freaking out because he's starting to realize people are in his head now that all this crazy stuff is going on. And then he's like, I gotta call somebody. And it's like the way that Spike Jonze reveals that Charlie Sheen is the person that he had to talk to it's great. I gotta give him that. It's so funny. Charlie
Sheen is the MVP of this movie to me. I love every moment with Charlie Sheen in this, and he's so fucking funny. Just, the scene where Malkovich is freaking out, and he's like, the weird thing is this Maxine likes to call me Lottie, and Charlie's like all into it. He's like, ouch, that is hot. Maybe she's using you to channel some dead lesbian lover. Sounds like my kind of gal. Let me know when you're done with her, yeah?
What are you talking about? Done with her, man. Tonight really freaked me out.
You're nuts to let a girl go that calls you Lottie. I tell you that as a friend.
Charlie, I don't know anything about the girl, man. She could be like a fucking witch or something.
That's even better. Hot lesbian witches. Think about it. It's fucking genius.
I love, too, that John Malkovich calls him Machine.
Yeah, and he calls him Malcatraz.
Yeah.
So good.
I wish this movie was just from their perspective and I didn't have to deal with all the other characters. This would be like a 10 out of 10 if that was the case.
I could have used some more Charlie Sheen, honestly. Again, it's that embracing of the stupidness of the situation, but playing it straight, and just Charlie Sheen always does that, right? Like it's like Charlie Sheen in any other role. You know, it's like him in Hot Shots or something. He's just like, oh yeah, man. Like, that's hot. You cannot let go a girl who calls you Lottie. I'm telling you as a friend.
If you do, send her my way.
Right.
Well, let me ask you, I've already let you know I hate the character of Maxine in this film, and I think she might be almost the worst character. She's almost as bad as John Cusack's character. But Catherine Keener, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not really fond of Catherine Keener as an actress. I find her strangely off-putting. I can't really think of anything that I like her in. Even the other movie she was in 1990 that we've covered, 8mm, we love that film. I really, really think that's a very, very, very good film. But she's probably my least favorite thing in it for the short amount of time she's in it. I don't know. There's just something about her that I don't love. And she plays the worst character in this movie. The doubling up of that, just, God, every time she's on screen. And everyone's like obsessed with her. She's like the object of the movie's obsession almost. And I'm like, why? Why? There's even a part where she's like making John Cusack talk about her boobs. And I'm like, my boobs are bigger than hers. Like, why do they keep calling attention to her boobs whenever the poor Catherine Keener is like a small A cup? Like, what? It feels mean almost. At that point, I was almost on her side. I was like, why are they doing this?
Can't throw shade at Keener's boobs here, man. No. Joking. I like Catherine Keener, and I like her a lot in this. Like, I feel like she does a really good job as Maxine. Like, she portrays that character to a T. She's really good in the role. She does, like, I can't even say she makes me hate her, because most of her antagonism is toward Craig, who just sucks. Like, he's just the schlubbiest, most pathetic guy. I mean, you feel bad for him to a degree, and I feel like as a younger man watching this, I felt way more sympathy for him and hated her character more. But watching this now, just like fully on board with the movie of just like, yeah, punch that dude in the face. He's so full of himself, you know, like, I don't know. He's just a schlub. You know, and then you bring on Maxine. Yeah, she's a bitch to him. She's, you know, just evil and cold and amoral. I will argue, though, I will say, by the end of the movie, I feel like she does have a genuine change of heart.
Not on screen, Jordan. They don't show you that happening or why that happened. They just accept. That's another issue I have with Charlie Kaufman stuff. That's my whole issue with Synecdoche, New York. He's like, hey, all this stuff, because I said so. But you don't see her have a change of heart. You skip ahead 8 months, all of a sudden she's like a good moral person who has like normal human feelings and isn't a narcissist anymore or a sociopath. She's just normal all of a sudden. The movie doesn't do anything to earn that.
It's motherhood, Nick. It's motherhood.
No.
Motherhood did it to her.
Bullshit.
No.
There's no logic there.
You have a bit of a hurdle to get over there in that it jumps ahead 8 months, and then we mostly see what has happened since he's basically fully embraced. Craig has taken over Malkovich's body. He's turned him into a puppeteer, which I think is hilarious. They go to his agent, and his agent's like a huge dick to his receptionist, and then they're just like, Craig inside of Malkovich is like, yeah, I want to be a puppeteer from now on. And the agent's just like, all right, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll make a few calls. It's done. It's like, wait, what? But yeah, we jump ahead. We miss all this time. We mostly see what has happened through this retrospective of Malkovich's life on TV. And, you know, at first it's Maxine is his partner in crime, is right there on the side of him. And then through that retrospective, we see that, oh, her feelings have changed and she's a little bit more distant, and she's not even in the same room with Malkovich at that moment. She's in the nursery, preparing the nursery for the baby. We see her big belly. She's super pregnant. But yeah, it's not fully dived into or explored like why she has that change of heart. but I feel like there's enough there implied to see like, oh, like she's kind of come to her senses. Maybe motherhood is kind of put things into perspective. Later, we find out the baby was actually Lottie, who was inside of Malkovich. It was conceived with.
Yeah, well, that's an important point to cover that we haven't. So Cameron
Yeah.
Diaz goes into John Malkovich's head and is like, I think I'm actually a man. I think I'm actually trans. I should have a penis. But then, like,
Right.
it gets really weird and twisted where it's like, well, actually, I just like to be in John Malkovich's head when he's having sex with Catherine Keener. And then I can look at Catherine Keener as John Malkovich. And Catherine Keener realizes I'm not really attracted to Cameron Diaz, but I am attracted to her when she's in the eyes of John Malkovich, which is weird.
Yeah, that's a fucked up scene. I mean, you got the whole scene where Maxine comes over for dinner, right? And it's in Craig and Lottie's little crappy soul-crushing apartment, like you said. And she's sitting on the couch between the two of them. And she's talking about how, you know, there's two kinds of people in life. There's the people that go for what they want. And then there's the other people that don't. And who gives a fuck about those people, right? And then they just both try and jump her bones. Like, it's so awkward. It's like the most awkward scene I've ever seen, where they're both enticed by this woman, like you said, for God knows why. I guess she just has that confidence about her, I think, is the main thing. And yeah, she reveals she's not attracted to Craig. Of course not, because he's the schlub. But I'm smitten with you, Lottie, but only in Malkovich. Yeah, it's really twisted and weird.
Yeah, and her line about, this is something that is kind of a theme in Kaufman's, where it's like, the situation he's created is unnatural, and then there are like lines that come out of that are supposed to be like deep, but I think they're stupid. She said something about like, you don't know what it's like to have two people lust for you from the same pair of eyes. Like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? Hate Charlie Kaufman. Stupid bullshit. Anyway.
Again, you can take that line as like, oh, he's trying to be deep or whatever, or you can take that as just like, the absurdity of this stupid situation, and it's just poking fun at the absurdity of the situation.
But he created the situation.
Right.
He doesn't get
for
to.
absurd comic relief.
It's not funny. It's stupid.
It's all created for absurd comic relief. I find it funny.
It's
Oh,
dumb.
well. Oh, well. Yeah, it is dumb. It is smart dumb. It's funny dumb.
The visual of both of them trying to jump on top of Catherine Keener at the same time to make out with her is funny. That
Yes.
one visual. That's all I enjoyed out of that entire storyline. And poor John Malkovich is just stuck in the middle here, just having his body used by people.
Oh, yeah. I thought for a minute there, I was thinking you said poor John Cusack. I was like, wait a minute. Like, fuck that guy.
Well, the thing is, okay, so all this happens, and then Cusack, he locks Cameron Diaz up with the chimpanzee in a cage. Like, he does a lot of really awful stuff. And then
right. He holds a gun to her head. Yeah, he's an awful human being.
Right. And he takes over Malkovich's body. And after a scene where Malkovich takes over his own body and then sees everyone as Malkovich's, which is about as Spike Jones as you can get, I feel.
Malkovich. Yeah, the peak of which is like, it goes into this portal. They're in a cafe. Everybody has Malkovich's head, even the women and the children. And then there's a cafe piano singer, like strewn across the top of the piano, singing with John Malkovich's face on like a woman's body. Malkovich.
See, and again, you were laughing, but I'm just thinking, like, why is this happening? Like, according to the logic that the film is laid out, I guess there was no
Because he went
logic.
into his own portal. What happens when someone goes in their own portal?
I hate that line. I wrote that down because that's another one of those stupid Charlie Kaufman lines I hate, where you invented this magical realism thing and are like, well, what'll happen with it now? And it's like, I don't know. It's some dumb thing you made up that you have complete control over.
It's just setting up the idea of something strange is about to happen. We don't know what's about to happen. And then something strange does happen. And I find it very amusing.
It's creepy. It's like the Aphex Twin album cover where it's like his face or some man's face on top of like a really beautiful woman's body that's really off-putting. There's a lot of that going on. But all that happens up until the point where John Cusack realizes he can get into Malkovich's body and completely control him and push poor John Malkovich down to the bottom of his own consciousness.
Well, yes, and he's having sex with Maxine, right? He does all that at first just to get in there when she's supposedly going to meet up. The whole line, I'll meet you and Malkovich in 1 hour so we can fuck, basically. And instead of it being Lottie, which Maxine is anticipating, she's thinking, then it is Craig. It's just, he's got his wife in the cage with the monkey and jumping into Malkovich so he can have sex with Maxine. But yes, then he realizes, I can control this man. And it's not just playing with dolls, it's playing with people.
Right. And then again, you get Keener's character being like, oh, wow, that really turns me on. Forget Lottie. I don't care about her anymore. The fact that you can completely control John Malkovich and that you took it upon yourself to do such a dastardly deed turns me on more than anything. So forget Lottie's character. I'm going to leave with you now. So again, that's where I'm coming from, where I'm like, she's a sociopath. This is an evil woman. So look, I understand being with John Cusack's horrible, awful character for 8 months is going to make you think, man, this guy sucks.
Maybe I made a mistake and this guy sucks.
Okay, fine. But it's not just that. It's that all of a sudden she's just a normal, like, caring human being. And there's no reason for her to be that. That is just as dumb and, like, fake magical as a portal to John Malkovich's head. That, to me, is the biggest flaw in the entire film. I hate it.
I let it go, whatever.
You let a lot go, my friend.
No, but you're right. She is an evil woman. I like that she does have this kind of tossed aside line when she's talking to Lottie and she realizes, it was Craig I was having sex with in Malkovich. It was Craig the whole time. And then she realizes he can control Malkovich. And then she says, I can control Craig and he can control Malkovich. So yeah, the wheels are turning there already. Like she's an entrepreneur. We forget to mention they set up this whole nighttime business of selling tickets to John Malkovich, $200 a pop. I like how their first customer comes in and he's like, so I can be anybody that I want to be. And they're like, Craig's kind of hemming and hawing. And Maxine's like, you can be John Malkovich. And he's like, well, it's my second choice, but all right. And then he starts to go into, see, I'm a fat man. I'm sad. And then Maxine just cuts him off and is like, $200? I just love the directness of all that. It's great.
That was a funny moment. But look, if Charlie Kaufman was actually a talented writer who could craft a story...
like he is?
Instead of just someone who can come up with a high concept...
which he's not.
Maxine's character, at the start of the film, would have become corrupted by power... and then she would have had a change of heart at the end. But that's not how she is introduced to us. She's introduced to us as this sociopathic character, and that's who she is the entire movie until the last 10 minutes. That's not how characterization should work. Her character should go on some type of mortal journey where she's at one place, and then she's corrupted, and then she is redeemed. And that's not what happens. Her character is shown to be one person, and then all of a sudden at the end, she's a completely different person. Maybe that's just me as like a traditional moralist, but that doesn't work for me. I don't connect with that, and I think it sucks.
But hey, aren't you being just like those people that rejected you because you weren't magical realist enough? You're rejecting this film because it's not traditional enough in her character arc? Isn't that just a arbitrary, subjective point of view? Does it have to be that way?
Jordan, you just made an argument as a nihilist. Because what you're saying is, forget there being any meaning or like any foundation beneath anything. Anything should just be able to be anything, and thus her character arc works, and you shouldn't be judging it. All I'm saying is, on a basic story character arc, she doesn't follow that. No one really follows that much here. Everyone, like, Craig sucks the whole time, and he sucks. Yeah. Lottie is weird, and then she's normal at the end for some reason. Maxine is a sociopath, and then she's normal at the end for some reason. Like, Malkovich, poor guy. Poor Malkovich. He gets his entire body taken at the end.
Well, you could argue, like, say, all right, we can start with Lottie. Yeah, she starts in this weird, confused place, right, where she gets access to this portal, and then it starts, it's basically starting to make everyone kind of question their own existence and their own consciousness and perspective and stuff. But by the end, she's been locked in a cage with a monkey. She's had a gun held to her head. Her husband has awfully betrayed her and, is now jumping into another man to be with another woman. So by the end, she goes to Dr. Lester, who is the boss of the filing firm that they work for, but he's revealed to live in a giant mansion where they have a big room where it tracks the life of John Malkovich, because apparently he is not Dr. Lester. He is the captain that we saw in that orientation video at the very beginning. He's just been jumping from body to body to live forever, basically. And now he's going to take a bunch of old friends with him once John Malkovich is the ripe age of, 44, 45? So, which is, again, all absurd. But she goes to Dr. Lester's house, and, there's a sense of her kind of like having gone through this traumatic experience. And she is at the place where, she wants to go into John Malkovich with all the old people, but then she freaks out. She tries to kill Maxine. Like, basically, if she can't have her, nobody can have her. So she tries to kill her, and this is like the one time that Maxine goes into the portal. I'm trying to remember the flow of things here, but basically, she's going to go in there. Because Craig's already in there, right? So, like, Craig pushes them down into the subconscious, and it's very Michel Gondry in this one moment, right? It's very similar to Eternal Sunshine, where they're kind of like popping in and out of these memories of Malkovich as a child, Malkovich as an awkward teenager, and different things like that. And they're going through windows and coming out ceilings, or going through ceilings and coming out doors, that kind of stuff, into different rooms and memories. But whatever point I was trying to make with that is, like, she goes through a traumatic experience, and that changes her, and that changes Maxine, and Maxine is changed by being with Schwartz for 8 months and now having a baby. So it does jump a lot of time, and it doesn't give you that development, obviously, that you're needing. But, at least for me, enough of that was implied that I could go with it.
Okay.
That was a lot of talking for rambling, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to argue with you, but I don't know what your point was, so I can't.
It's all nihilist. I've just devolved into nihilism.
You know what part I thought was really good, where, like, it might be the only part of the film where I actually felt an emotional connection at all, is whenever Lottie is locked up with the chimpanzee, and then you go into the chimpanzee's head, and then chimpanzee remembers when its whole family was kidnapped from the jungle, and its parents were like, untie us, quick, untie us, and it can't untie them in time, and it gets captured, and then has to live with John Cusack and Cameron Diaz.
That was the emotional moment for you?
Yeah, you get into his head, and the movie almost makes an argument there for wanting to be behind someone else's eyes for a minute, because that's like the one moment where I felt like the movie really works in its concept, is the chimpanzee flashback, and then he unties Cameron Diaz. That was the only moment I felt emotionally connected to this entire film. Yeah,
it was a cathartic moment, as far as, like, this whole time, Cameron Diaz has been talking about Elijah, their chimpanzee, having suffered some emotional trauma as a child, and they're going through psychotherapy with him. And you're just thinking, this woman is batshit crazy, right? Like, she's putting her chimpanzee through some sort of supposed childhood trauma. Like, how do we know that's even real, or if she's just, like, not making up this kind of stuff? And obviously, John Cusack is not into it at all. He can't remember the names of any of the pets. Like, he could care less. But we have this one moment where it's revealed, oh, he did suffer a childhood trauma. This was it. And then now he's able to kind of like redeem himself by untying Lottie and letting her out of the cage.
He's the only character in the film that undergoes an actual arc, is the chimpanzee.
There you go. Sure, why not? Got to have it in there somewhere.
Yeah, you have to have, like, one actual movie moment in this movie.
I like that it's the chimpanzee.
It's the chimpanzee. That's who Kaufman knows how to write. It's chimps. I did like when they go in his subconscious, there's some good laughs there, but just because of how messed up John Malkovich's life has been.
John Horatio Malkovich.
John, which isn't his real name in real life.
It's not his real name.
It's not his real middle name. I like him saying, I am bad, when he's a little kid.
Sitting in the basement of his grungy house.
Yeah, and peeing on the bus, and all the little kids make a song, Little John Malky P. That was fun.
Malky P, right.
I felt sorry for him the whole movie.
You enjoyed the stupid humor in those moments?
I did, yeah. That was one of the 7 or 8 moments. I think I've listed all of them now. Oh, okay. No, there's one more. It's whenever someone just drives by when John Malkovich is walking down the street and hits him in the head with the beer can.
Hey, Malkovich, think fast, or whatever. All right, so we did have a couple people mention they thought that this was just like an accident of filmmaking. Like they were filming and someone just randomly threw a beer can at Malkovich's head. But at least from what I've read, that this was planned. Spike Jonze actually almost didn't film that scene because they were going late into the night, and he didn't think any of the actors or stunt people would be able to do this first take or third take or whatever. But apparently they got it on the first take, and yeah, this wasn't just like a blooper or something that they left in, which is, I think Sebastian, our French fellow, wrote in, maybe Anthony, a couple other people. I don't know where that rumor started or if it's true or not, but from what I read, it was something that they had planned all along, and it was part of the script and everything. It looks so realistic though, so I could see why, like, maybe that got circulated somehow. Like, oh yeah, man, that was just like a random accident they left in. Cause yeah, even watching this like first time in my teens, I that moment sticks out for sure. Cause it's really funny. Cause he's just like, this is my head, Schwartz, my head. He's like, I'll see you in court. And then he's walking away. And then, think fast, Malkovich. Like, how does the guy in the truck even know it's Malkovich? He's got his back turned to the truck. He's got a blue baseball cap on. But again, I love the absurdity of that. It's just like, it goes right along with people recognizing Malkovich, but not really remembering his name or being like, hey, you were great in that movie when you played that retard. And then Malkovich just being like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a good Malkovich imitation you just did.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Isn't Dr. Merton and all his little cronies that Cameron Diaz is hanging out with, aren't they so creepy that they just want to take over people's minds?
I love the one lady who's like, always wanted to know what it'd be like to have a penis, and now I can.
Yeah. And then they get to take John Malkovich at the end. It's so sad. It's played for laughs. It's funny, but at the same time, like, these people are so creepy, and it's so sad that poor John Malkovich has no agency and he's gone. He gets pushed down into his own subconscious. I hated that.
That's true. If you do think about it, you're like, man, like, yeah, this movie doesn't give a shit about John Malkovich, and it's really sad. He just gets taken over. And it's really sad when you see that moment where Craig finally decides to leave Malkovich, and he's in a bar. He's just gotten a fight. He's in the bathroom, or he makes a phone call and lets him know that he's going to leave Malkovich. And then he finally leaves, and like Malkovich finally comes back to himself, and he has that moment where he's looking in the mirror and he goes, I'm free. And he really sells it. You're just like, damn, man, this guy's just been locked away for 8 months in his own head. And then Lester and them all go through the portal and take him over. And he, Malkovich, the actor, does a great job there where he's like shaking and convulsing as the people are all climbing into him and everything. It's just like, damn, that if you think about it, that is really tragic that this dude's just like this poor guy just living his life. He's on the top of the world with his acting career. And then all these schlubs just take over his body and start messing with him. Turn him into a grungy looking puppeteer. I like how Malkovich ends up looking like Craig after Craig's been in him for 8 months. He's just got that long, scraggly hair, the swept over comb over. And I think Malkovich does a really great job too of, in his performance, performing like the people that are inside him. So when Malkovich is supposed to have Craig inside of him, the actor Malkovich takes on these mannerisms of the way John Cusack plays his character. I thought that was great. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, Malkovich is really good. But you said I love that. Just as I was saying, I hate that like Lottie sits with Dr. Merton and all his crew that are
Dr. Lester.
Lester, yeah, whatever. They all want to jump into people's minds and take over their bodies. I hate how they're like posed as like the mortal good there, where they're like the safe, nice people with Lottie that are going to help her. And it's like, but no, they're awful. They're awful.
Well, if you don't like that, maybe you would have liked it better in the original form of the script that I read about, which apparently Satan was supposed to take over, and Dr. Lester was like in cahoots with Satan.
Yeah, I guess if they also revealed that Catherine Keener's character was going to go straight to hell with Satan at the end of the movie instead of sitting in a swimming pool with her daughter and Cameron Diaz. Yeah, I would have liked that ending better. Yeah, I'm about out of stuff to say. I guess we're almost to the end of the plot here. They ditch Cusack, they being Lottie and Maxine. They drive off to live a happy life and have poor John Malkovich's baby.
Which he's stuck inside of.
Craig gets stuck inside of the kid, I guess, somehow, through some other dumb magical realism moment that's off screen.
Well, no, they set it up a bit earlier where Dr. Lester is explaining, yes, we have to go into John Malkovich, on his 44th birthday before midnight. And if we don't, then we'll, go into like the next available vessel, which would be like a newborn, which we would then be absorbed in and, not be able to have any agency. So that's basically what happens to Craig, is that after he leaves, Dr. Lester and all his cronies go into Malkovich and take over. Then Craig is like, I'll just go back into Malkovich and win you back, Maxine, and you'll love me again. So that's what he tries to do off screen. But it's revealed at the end that he's just been absorbed in the next vessel, which is, of course, their daughter.
And he tries to control her and tell her to turn her head.
But she won't.
He doesn't want to look at
Maxine!
Lottie and Maxine.
Maxine! Yes, look away. Look away. It's so pathetic. But again, like, I feel like I used to find that more tragic and just like, oh man, what a bummer. Like, this dude just got screwed over so bad. Like, these women just left him, and now he's stuck in this kid. But kind of now watching it, I'm just like, yeah, good riddance. Like, this guy sucked, and I don't feel bad for him at all. Like, he was a terrible guy and did terrible things, and he got what was coming to him.
Right. So I feel the same way. I think he got what he deserved. But again, like in American Beauty, where the movie's like, Annette Bening sucks. She's just a money-grubbing jerk. But Kevin Spacey's midlife crisis is actually pretty cool, right?
Right.
I feel like this movie is like, yeah, Craig sucks. Maxine, though, she's actually okay. And she's not. She also deserves the same end that Craig does, because she sucks, but she doesn't get that comeuppance. She gets a happy ending, and the movie's just like, yay, everything's right with the world, and it's not. And I don't like it. And I don't like this movie, Jordan. I thought, where am I going to go? Because I did laugh a few times with this. Yeah. And that's an interesting concept. And I think that John Malkovich is really, really good in this. And the score is pretty good. The score that I ordered like 3 weeks ago, and the person on eBay says they shipped, but the USPS tracking shows that it never left them. They only received a tracking number, but they never brought the package. Right.
Just another Maxine.
Right. It's
just trying to rip off the average Joe.
It probably was Maxine selling me being John Malkovich's soundtrack by Carter Burwell and then not following through on it and just taking my money.
Thought it was a great score, too. I'll argue one last point here. Just that, okay, I think we can agree that Craig sucks and at least he gets his comeuppance, right? And unlike American Beauty, the movie is not like, oh man, it's really cool to have a, midlife crisis. And then we really champion this anti-hero. So I think we can at least celebrate that this guy and his poor choices are being punished. And, that's a step up at least from nihilism, right? That, okay, you make bad choices, you end up, absorbed in a baby and not able to, do anything in your life. That's like a hell, right? I remember expressly thinking that when I first watched this movie, just like, oh man, that is like hell. You're just stuck inside this body. You're not able to do anything. And like the woman you're obsessed with, that you were in love with is, right there is like the mother of that body. Anyways, but, I guess we just disagree in that you needed more development, more of a resolution in showing Maxine's character growth.
Yeah, because it's not a fair ending. It's one person gets their comeuppance and the other one just arbitrarily becomes a totally different person who's morally good and suffers no comeuppance and gets their dream life. So, yeah, I didn't like that at all.
I feel like I had more of a problem with that when I first saw this movie too. Like the ending in that way did bother me, but maybe it's just like after seeing this movie and knowing these characters and this absurdity well enough at this point, it bothers me less. I don't know what it is, but it is interesting. Like you raised the point about Dr. Lester and this group of people taking over being John Malkovich, them being posed as like the moral good here. And I think that is an interesting thing to pick apart or just look at as far as the story goes, is that these aren't necessarily the good guys, even though it's like Craig is shown to be this dastardly villainous guy because he's taken over Malkovich, turned him into a scraggly looking weirdo and turned him into a puppet. And then at the end, it's like, okay, but instead of that, we have like a different group of people taking over Malkovich. These old people that you're supposed to feel sorry for, basically. They take over Malkovich. And I like the ending where we see a ridiculous looking Charlie Sheen. It's like 8 years later, but they both look like they're 80 years old. And, you know, the swept over, comb over, like balding Charlie Sheen and the gray haired John Malkovich. And he's like, he's again, another aspect of the performance where he's performing just like Orson Bean's Dr. Lester. He has like the same lilt in his voice and this kind of same like, I don't know, upper crustness to him. And he shows them, oh, we're tracking the life of Emily now. She's our next vessel. Like, how would you like to live forever? I like that we get a little bit more Sheen there at the end, especially.
Okay. Well, Jordan, I don't know if you realize this, but I actually have a stand-in in this film. Were you aware of this?
You have a stand-in?
Yeah.
Being Nicholas Loop.
There's a scene in this movie, multiple scenes that take place in
Paul Walker,
Craig Schwartz and Lottie Schwartz's apartment. Their apartment is like hell on earth to me. Constant noise, constant motion, gray, dismal lighting. It feels awful. And you get a lot of settings like this in Charlie Kaufman movies. Really, this is like the chief setting of a Charlie Kaufman film. And I hate it, right?
Right.
Well, there's a poor neighbor who lives next door to Craig and Lottie. And as the racket grows and grows in every scene that we get in their apartment, this poor neighbor yells, "Shut up! Shut up!"
I love it.
And that's what I want to say to Charlie Kaufman and to this film. You know what? It has some redeeming aspects. There are some laughs. Filmmaking is pretty high quality through most of the film. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. The same score I gave
5 out of 10.
I gave that to American Beauty. I'll give it to this too.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't say I'm shocked. I knew you were going to hate this.
I never want to watch it again. I watched it twice for this. That was 2 times too many. Done with this damn movie forever.
Come on. Well, I'm like you. I'm going to give this movie a 5, but it's going to be 5 out of 5, damn it. 5 out of 5, Nicholas. This is my kind of movie.
Is this the biggest discrepancy we've had?
I think so. I knew it would be. This is a big discrepancy.
Maybe Congo was this big. I don't remember. I don't think so. Scores were,
I feel like we were like closer on agreement with Congo, but yeah, I think we're pretty polar opposite where it comes to this movie. I think John Cusack is great in this. I think Keener is great. Diaz, like, all the performers are top notch. Again, you hate the writing. I love the writing. I love all the stupid stuff between Cusack and the secretary and Cusack and Dr. Lester, you know, talking about his sexual fantasies. And I don't know, just love all the awkward, weird humor here. I love how much it's just like making fun of itself and making fun of these characters. And it's really funny. I find this really funny, even though it's really grim and dark and bleak. I don't know. It's just like a perfect collection of things that I enjoy. I like the direction from Jones. I like the documentary feel, I like the score. Talking about the philosophy of the movie versus American Beauty, I at least like that Craig does get what's coming to him at the end, even if, you know, we can't agree that Maxine should be punished as well. Maybe it would have been a better movie for you, Nick, if she got absorbed or punished somehow, and Craig was just killed, and Lottie, I don't know, went away with John Malkovich or something. I don't know. I don't know what would have pleased you, but I guess it's not this. Yeah, I think Charlie Kaufman, you're asking about the kind of characters that he writes, and all these characters being unlikable, but at least that Craig does, get his comeuppance. I think Kaufman has too much self-hatred in him, and maybe too much hatred for his characters, therefore, to let, them get away with anything. And in that sense, it does remind me of the Coen brothers, where it's like the universe will win in the end. Like, you're doomed, you're fucked, but we're going to have like a good black-hearted laugh, while we get there. So in that realm of things, I enjoyed this very much. And Charlie Sheen, MVP, 5 out of 5.
I just checked. So this isn't as big as the discrepancy with Congo, I think. I gave it a 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10?
No, I gave it a 2 out of 10. I gave it a 2 out of 10, and you gave it an 8 out of 10. So on my scale, we're 6 apart there, and we're 5 apart here. So that's still the reigning champ, which I'm glad to see.
2 out of 10. Sacrilege. We're going to do a Congo and being John Malkovich double feature at your house one day, just to make you suffer. That'll be your punishment.
That's awful. That would be an unfair comeuppance that I'm sure Charlie Kaufman would pin for me. Something else. Now, I don't think all our listeners love being John Malkovich, though I have a feeling a good bit do, and I'm the bad guy in this episode. I feel like I'm probably the bad guy in a lot of our episodes.
You're like Malkovich in the basement. I'm bad. That's your stand-in right there, Nick.
No,
that's you.
I think I'm right, and I don't feel bad about it.
I do love the shouting neighbor, though. Shut up!
Well, I don't feel bad about this opinion, which I think will be even more controversial than giving this movie a 5 out of 10. Something I realized having to watch Pushing 10 and American Beauty back to back, I don't really like John Cusack very much, Jordan. I'm not a big fan.
I was reckoning with that, too, watching this and a bit of Pushing 10 and watching The Sure Thing, which again, I think this is one of his best performances, being John Malkovich. I think he's really strong here. He plays the sad, pathetic loser really well, but there's a lot of comedy beats that he hits perfectly. But, I'm a big fan of some of his stuff, but he is kind of hit or miss. Like you said, he goes into that, he just kind of falls off at some point where it's like, maybe he's just too old, and he just into like straight to TV movie or straight to video movies. But not to spoil my connection here, but I guess we'll have to get into it. It's not a connection to American Beauty, so, you can forgive me for mentioning it now. But we do have Cusack and Malkovich in our beloved Con Air. Can't tell me you don't like Cusack and Con Air, my friend.
He is definitely my least favorite character, and
okay, true.
But I like what happens to him, because he tries to do all this stuff, and he's all like self-righteous and like, no, you're doing everything wrong. You gotta show more compassion, man. And then at the end of the movie, when everything just goes to hell, he's like, yeah, a lot of good that did.
Yeah.
I like that the movie does that with him.
I do agree he's my least favorite character there, but I think just by association, you've got John Cyrus the Virus Malkovich. Like, just, I don't know, the antithesis of the persona we see in this movie, where he's like this New York elite celebrity doing Shakespeare. And then you've got him as this hardened criminal on a flight full of convicts.
Right. I don't hate John Cusack and everything. Stand By Me is fine.
Wait, he's not in Stand By Me. Oh, wait, yeah, he is in Stand By Me.
Yeah.
He's the older brother.
He is. And Grosse Pointe Blank, I remember liking when I was a teenager. I haven't seen it since then.
See, that's one that a lot of people liked that I just never got. I guess I need to rewatch, but that movie never really clicked with me. I never really got the love for it.
I don't know if I love it. It's been so long, but I remember at least enjoying it to a degree. So I don't know, but I found in Pushing 10 in this, and I don't know, when I see him in real life, that punchable face that I see in these movies, I feel like might just be his face. I'm not saying I want to punch John Cusack in the face. I'm not saying I want to punch anybody in the face. I'm just saying that expression, a punchable face, I feel like applies to his face for whatever reason.
Well, I know that you hate Say Anything. I like him in that. I'm a big fan of High Fidelity. I like him a lot in that
liked
movie.
High Fidelity, I think.
Yeah.
Been a long time for that, too.
But yeah, he is hit or miss, but I think more often than not, I like him. I don't know. It's nowadays, yeah, he's at the point where it's just like, if he's making anything, it's probably not anything I'm interested in. It's not like, oh, I need to go see Cusack in this new movie. It's not like the level of Nick Cage, where it's just like, all right, he's still got it. You know, I feel like Cusack's day has kind of come and gone for a long time, but there's a lot of stuff, 80s and 90s, you know, I can look back. Like I've been kind of wanting to go back and watch some of those movies. I've been watching some of those Brat Pack movies from the 80s. Watched, you know, like I said, The Sure Thing. I watched St. Elmo's Fire. I've been on a big Joel Schumacher kick, so I've pretty much just been like watching all his movies. But yeah, he's got some good stuff I think that we could revisit, and especially as we dive more into the 90s, we can talk more about him and enjoy some of his stuff, hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah, we've watched 2 of his 3 1999 movies. Now he has one other one called Cradle Will Rock. I don't know if we'll get to that this year or ever, but...
Or ever. Yeah, I feel like I saw that once and mostly forgot it, but it might be worth a watch.
Right. Well, Jordan, what connects Being John Malkovich to American Beauty?
Despicable Humans! Yeah, that's pretty much all my notes for this, and Con Air. What do you got?
Nah, that's my connection is what I've already said. There is a character who acts morally wrong and gets their comeuppance, but then there's another one who also acts morally wrong, and the movie doesn't really seem to have any problem with them, and kind of puts them up in a pretty good moral place at the end of the movie, and I don't think it's deserved. So, and they're both 5 out of 10 movies to me in 2024. So. And they're both movies that my opinion is probably a minority opinion of. So
there you go.
There you go.
Lots of connections. We talked a good bit about Fight Club, a good bit about American Beauty, like that office cubicle vibe, that cramped vibe, and that fin de siècle vibe of just, you know, things being kind of rotten and dirty and falling apart. So I feel like there is a connection with American Beauty and Being John Malkovich in that sense too. Being John Malkovich is much more in on the joke of that or making light of that, whereas American Beauty is like, let's seriously look at how like disturbed suburbia is, and suburbia sucks, and you know, it's American Beauty feels more of like a serious movie in that regard, whereas Malkovich is obviously much more absurd and high concept. But yeah, I feel like poking fun at that a little bit more.
Okay, man.
You're like, whatever. I want to stop talking about this movie. So, are you ready for the trivia battle?
Hold it! Pop quiz, hotshot.
Well, just when you thought you could stop talking about this movie that you hate so much, guess what? All my trivia questions are based around Being John Malkovich. So maybe this will be an easy one for you, Nick. Maybe.
Oh, well, since you made me watch Being John Malkovich, and the next movie is my pick, I figured I would just go full on a-hole with my questions.
There you go. Embrace your inner a-hole, just like Charlie Kaufman.
I'm just going to keep it going. Kaufman writes unlikable characters. All his characters are so unlikable, and I'll just be that for this episode.
That's right. Embrace your unlikable self.
Right. All my questions are about Billy Bob Thornton.
All right.
Not the films of Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob Thornton.
Just about his life.
Besides the first question, yes.
Okay.
All right. I only wrote 4, so...
All right,
and my last question goes into my punishment movie. So why don't you go first? You go first.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Question number 1. Malkovich. And your choices are A. Malkovich, B. Malkovich, C. Malkovich, or D. Malkovich?
I wasn't a big enough jerk when I wrote my questions. I should have made them even worse. I'm going to answer Billy Bob to that.
Wrong. It was C. Malkovich. Come on, Nick. You just watched the movie. Should have got that.
Oh, I didn't want to get it.
Of course not.
All right.
All right, what do you got?
Here's the one movie related question.
And just so you know, just ask me your 4 questions because that's all I got.
Oh, good grief. Okay. First
or
question.
I could do that again, question 2, Malkovich.
So you have to get all 4 of these right to win. Otherwise, I win.
Okay.
All right. Because Malkovich, apparently. All right. For which of these Oscar categories did Billy Bob win his first Oscar? Was it A, Best Actor, B, Best Adapted Screenplay, C, Best Director, or D, Best Original Song?
Was it Best Original Screenplay?
Incorrect. The option that I gave you was Best Adapted Screenplay.
Oh, Best Adapted Screenplay.
That's wrong. Okay, number 2.
But what was the answer?
Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
But you said Best Original Screenplay. That is incorrect.
All right. But just so the audience knows, if Sling Blade, I got it right.
You got it wrong. It's an adapted screenplay. Sling Blade is not an original screenplay. But maybe you'll get this one right.
But it was Sling Blade, right? Adapted?
Correct.
Screenplay was Sling Blade.
I'm going to give you a hint for number 2. It's one of the actual options that I'm going to give you. Try to guess one of those.
Okay.
How many times has Billy Bob been married? A, 4, B, 5, C, 6, or D, 7?
It's one of those. Because of your hint. Was it 5?
Incorrect. C, 6.
6, damn.
And the 6th one's gonna last, Jordan. He's still
Billy
in
Bob,
that one.
come on, man. Just slow down. Just give it up by now.
He said that he wasn't cut out for marriage, but then he did it again. But this one's gone for a while now. I think this one's gone on as long as the other 5 combined. So maybe
who's he married to now?
I don't know.
Courtney Love?
Not Courtney Love. Not Courtney Love. Because Jordan, I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but Billy Bob Thornton is still alive.
She hasn't killed him yet. That'll be his 7th.
I'm just kidding. Allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not even I don't even know if that's alleged anymore. But
it's
anyway.
alleged in that documentary you and I both like a lot.
I don't know if I like it anymore.
Kurt
I liked it when
Courtney.
I was 12 and I showed it to you.
Right.
Or whatever.
That we both liked a lot back in the early 2000s.
What was it? Kurt versus Courtney?
I think it was just Kurt and Courtney.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? But I tell you what, that was a hell of a lot of heroin to be able to blow your head off with, Yeah. I don't know. It's fishy. I'm not saying Courtney did it. I'm just saying it's fishy.
All right.
She was pretty good in Man on the Moon. I watched that the other day.
Yeah.
Not a lot asked of her, but she was fine than that. So I don't know if she killed Kurt Cobain. I don't even know if anyone killed Kurt Cobain, but
Kurt Cobain's still alive, man, and we're all gonna meet him on the moon or whatever.
Well, this is a great transition to my third question, because Kurt Cobain, of course, a musician. Jordan, which of these is not the title of one of Billy Bob's musical albums? Billy Bob Thornton, famously also a musician. Famously or infamously a musician.
Famously? I don't know about that. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so which of these is not one of his albums? A, Private Radio. B, The Edge of the World. C, Running on Full. D, Hobo. Or E, Beautiful Door.
Hobo?
Incorrect. That is a real album he released in the year 2005, Jordan.
Billy Bob's Hobo. Does he sing like the character from Sling Blade in it?
I think he'd be more popular if he did.
Want me some taters.
No, he does not have an album titled Running on Full.
That was just an invention of your own masterful mind.
There you go. Take on Jackson Brown's Running on Empty.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounded like a boomer actor who turned artist would make an album named that.
Right. Well, Jordan, instead of getting all these questions right, you've actually gotten them all wrong, which is the opposite of what I told you should do. But
hoo-ah!
But you might get number 4 right to at least avoid total embarrassment. All right.
Oh, I think you've embarrassed yourself already when you couldn't answer my Malkovich question.
I just didn't want to say his name again. I mean, I love the guy, but I've had enough. I've had enough.
Too much Malkovich.
Too much. In what town was Billy Bob born? Was it A, Gainesville, Florida, B, Buckham, Georgia, C, Greensboro, Alabama, or D, Hot Springs, Arkansas?
I'm just going to guess Greensboro.
Incorrect. You are 0 for 4, my friend.
Yes.
Billy Bob Thornton was born in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
I lose again.
Jordan, have you ever been to Hot Springs, Arkansas?
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool town. It's apparently Billy Bob Thornton came from squalor and kind of extreme circumstances, and maybe that's why he's so enigmatic and terrifying.
Well, they got plenty of that in Arkansas, let me tell you.
But Hot Springs is a lovely town, in my opinion. I would like to retire right where I'm from, in Louisiana, because I love it here. But if I was forced to go somewhere else, I think I could retire in Hot Springs.
I just remember, hey, we're a 90s podcast, right? And we love time travel back to the 90s. You can go to a place called Jasper, Arkansas. Went up there for the Ozarks, hike the mountains, everything. I swear that place was still stuck in 94. I was like, do you guys know that Kurt Cobain killed himself? Or are y'all still like, because I swear I saw kids like, not like the Nirvana shirts you'd buy at the mall. It's like, we're still wearing the Nirvana shirts we bought in Sam Goody from like 1992 when Nevermind first came out. It was like these, it's like the radio was all grunge. It's just like literally a time capsule back to the early 90s. It was wild. So yeah, go have a treat in Arkansas, all you 90s fans.
Nice. Flannel City, USA.
That's right.
Jordan, I went to Hot Springs last year, and I quickly found that the television at my Airbnb on the beautiful mountain that felt very mysterious and magical. Not magical realism, Jordan, actually magical.
Yeah, the thing you hate, apparently.
Right. So I was up there at night. It was late. The wind's blowing through the magnolia leaves on the mountain, and there's no cable television. There's only a Roku TV with weird Roku channels, and one of them was the Lionsgate channel, Jordan. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to leave it here and I'll just watch whatever movies come on, no matter what they are.
Just like the good old days.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
That's see? Time capsule, Arkansas. I'm telling you, man.
There you go.
There you go.
It's the place for that. One of those movies is our punishment movie, Jordan.
Ooh.
I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, when on the Lionsgate channel, I watched for the first time the 1999 film Stir of Echoes, starring Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, yeah.
Written and directed by David Coep from a novel of the same title by Richard Matheson. Jordan, this movie came out around the same time as my main pick, The Sixth Sense, also from 1999.
That's a nice little double. Yeah, I remember this movie, Stir of Echoes, being hot trash, but we'll see.
Right, so that's the thing. Stir of Echoes is like the extremely low-rent version of The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense won accolades, was one of the highest grossing films of the year and of all time. And Stir of Echoes kind of got nothing. It had a small budget, so you can't necessarily say it flopped, but it didn't do great. It didn't really gain a great reputation. You do have those haters who are like, and I'm not like a hater person, right? But I can logically back it up. I don't think the people that I know that say, actually, I think Stir of Echoes is better than Sixth Sense can really back that up with logic, but...
yeah, like, I don't see how.
There's a little crowd that say that. You know what? I didn't think it was too great. I thought this would be a great punishment. It's pretty crazy, too. Anthony, one of our patrons, was like, that would make a great double to you at some point. And I already have that lined up. We're already going to do that. Great minds think alike, I guess. Synergy.
It's almost like synecdoche.
Ugh. Gross.
Just going to keep digging in that wound.
Yeah. Hopefully it is healed by The Sixth Sense, which I saw in the theater twice. One of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I've really loved that film. I'm hoping I still love that film. That's going to be the main film. 1999 Stir of Echoes is the punishment, and 1999's The Sixth Sense as the main film on the next Film Shake, Jordan.
I'm looking forward to it. Good picks. So, thank you listeners for listening. We appreciate all your support. Please support us over at patreon.com/filmshake. You can get bonus episodes, bonus content where we basically, whoever signs up, they get to pick the topic. We'll cover it as long as it's not a 90s movie. you can be one of those people too. So go over to patreon.com/filmshake, get that bonus content, some behind the scenes stuff there. You can also reach out to us by email, filmshakepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any comments, concerns, suggestions, you can find us over on X at 90s Movies Pod. You can connect with us there. So appreciate hearing from all you guys. Big shout outs to Anthony and Sebastian for their often humorous and amusing interactions there. So we'll catch you next time for more Film Shake.
Take it easy.
All right. Knew you're gonna hate it.